What's going on, guys? Hope you're having a blessed night. Thank you for coming to my YouTube and Rumble channel. I hope all of you guys are having a blessed night with your loved ones. We are going to be reacting to a very viral video that was released today. That is Andrew Tate, Myron Gaines, and our favorite, Nick Fuentes. Today they did a three-person talk, interview, debate, whatever you call it, and just spoke about politics, what's happening in today's society, the Trump administration, and when they developed their red pill moment, as we've all come across. And also, what's going on with Tucker and Candace Owens. Anyways, enough talking. Hope you guys are having a blessed day. Please like, comment, subscribe, share. Let's get it started, y'all.
What about you, Nick? I'll repeat it because I know we basically.
No, I remember.
Okay,
It's
yeah. What red pilled you?
Yeah, I got red pilled back in 2016, and it was a process like it is for everybody. I was a basic bitch conservative when I was in high school because I read all the libertarian stuff and I read all the conservative and neoconservative stuff, and I was a Ben Shapiro fan. Enough said. That's just what there was. You know, back in those days, if you were a mainstream person, you had PragerU, Breitbart, you had, the usual suspects. And what red pilled me, Trump was a big part of it. Sam Hyde was a big part of it. But I had a buddy of mine. He was like autistic. He is a straight up Asperger's genius. And he was on 4chan all the time. And he was a good friend of mine. We were in Model UN and other stuff together. And I'll never forget, I must have been a junior or senior in high school. And he called me into this room when we were setting up for our Model UN conference, and somebody goes, "Oh, Nick, there's a sophomore that's saying the Holocaust never happened." And I was like, "Really?" So I go in, I hear him out. I said, "Yeah, that's sort of interesting." And then we went and we campaigned for Paul Nealon that summer, a couple of years later. And I was hitting him with all the Israel arguments. This is in 2016. I'm saying, but they fought 4 wars of extermination against Israel. Like Israel is this island of civilization in a sea of barbarians, all the usual shit. And he fought back and made the case for the Palestinians and for the Arabs and all this. And I said, wow, that's really interesting. And what really did it for me is I got to the point in college. There were a number of other things that happened to me over time. But I got to the point in college where I said, is it all a Jewish conspiracy? And I thought to myself, there's got to be an argument that it isn't. Like there must, are they really suppressing this truth? There's got to be like a book out there that debunks all this stuff. And then what really did it for me is that on 9/11 in 2016, during the election, if you remember, Hillary Clinton was like not well. She was sick. And on 9/11, she did a thing with Donald Trump, actually. They were both in New York for the anniversary of 9/11 on the same day, and she fainted. And they literally picked her up like a rag doll and threw her into a van. I don't know if you remember that video, but she was literally like rag doll, and they fucking tossed her in a van. And then 5 hours later, they had all these explanations. They said, oh, well, it's too hot. Oh, she actually had pneumonia. And she comes out of Chelsea Clinton's apartment and hugs like a little girl. And it's like, wait a second. So first you said it was too hot. Then you said she has pneumonia. But if she has pneumonia, why is she hugging this kid? And everyone in the media lied about it. And in that moment, I knew if they could lie about this, they could lie about anything because they're willing and they're able to lie. And if people are not willing to investigate it or dig deeper because of censorship, because of, it's a regulated press, I said, then they could.
A couple things. Yes, in today's society, the neocons, old school Republicans, as Nick was talking about in the beginning, those don't exist anymore. Those are a dying breed that work for big media, as he was also speaking about. They lied about the Iraq war. They're lying about all the other wars. If we can't trust them on one lie, then why trust them on anything they say? That's how I think about it. It's kind of in regards to the Epstein files and how they've been handled. They're lying to us. And I'm sorry, once you lose my support, my trust, I don't trust you anymore. And I've been a 3-time Trump voter. I've always supported him. But the way he's handled Epstein has me questioning everything these days. So we can't trust them, big media. We can't trust the politicians. So who can we trust? We, the people, need to form our own party. Left needs to wake the hell up. I'm still very confirmed in my own head that the Democrats have lost their damn mind. Conservatives as well, a lot of them are warmongers. They're neocons, and they don't produce any results, no new policy that benefits the American people. I mean, you have Trump campaigning with Lindsey Graham telling the American people to vote for him again. Also recently promoting Mark Levin, the neocon himself, who is Israel first to the top degree that you can be Israel first. So those are the old dying breed, and Trump is supporting them. He is literally promoting Mark Levin's new book, and there's never been a war that he has not loved or supported because they get rich off it. The politicians and big media profit from the wars that they bring us into, that the innocent American people and people around the country dying for what? So they can get rich off dying Americans.
Lie about all this stuff. And that, for me, that's when I realized this like benefit of the doubt could not be afforded to any narrative, because that's really what it is. No one has investigated, the vast majority of people at that point had not investigated the 9/11 truth movement or the Holocaust or Israel or any of these things. All they had was the benefit of the doubt. That stuff is conspiracy territory. We believe the government. We believe the mainstream narrative. And I said, if they could lie about something that I saw with my own eyes, then we can't afford the official narrative, the benefit of the doubt on any of these things. And so that was the big break for me. It wasn't a book. It was just kind of this gradual noticing and kind of taking this tenuous frame, you know, for how to perceive things and just seeing it confirmed over and over. And then when I saw that, I said, it's totally plausible that they're covering it up. And that was it for me.
Shit.
He has a great point. If they lie about one thing, why trust them when it comes to anything else? I 100% agree. They test our intelligence. They think we're dumb. They think you're too dumb. The good thing is X is a free speech platform at this point, so we can actually not be lied to. We, the people, are the new news. The big media chains, which used to be the only news, aren't even close to the main source of news these days. It's insane. And they think that that's all we listen to and they're reliable, when we all know all they do is lie. But what I don't get is it seems like the Democrat Party, they're 100% in support of the system that they say they fight against. I mean, every movement that the left has pushed, they support. The trans ideology when it comes to grooming kids in school. BLM when it comes to burning down cities, they supported that. It's just, they always fall for the trap. Sink like and what is that? Sink like and hink. I don't even know what that term is. And yeah, Hope, I am starting to see Trump is one of them. He is one of them. And it sucks to admit that because I voted for him every time. But just the handle of the Epstein file has me questioning all of his motives at this point. Facts.
I think you're legit. I think that, you know, as far as the Milo thing is concerned, the only reason I even mentioned it is because Candace did her show with me. She did her show with Tucker, and then she does a show with Milo. Elon Musk replies to Milo calling me a fed. You know, then you come in and kind of, you didn't really pick a side, but you sort of said the Brigitte Macron thing's legit. And you said the Reuters talk too much about the Jews or, you know, that they blame the Jews or something. And then you retweeted Milo. It looked like it was coordinated. I hope you understand that. And totally. I think that people need to scrutinize these things because, as you know, and you know, you're brilliant on politics. I consider you a friend too, and I consider what you have built to be one of the most positive things that's happened in the 2020s. And I even come down on your side when you're arguing with Catholics like Matt Walsh, because honestly, a lot of the Catholic, you know, white right, they're pussies when it comes to women. And a lot of the trad stuff is 100.
I want to speak on a point because this is a 10-minute clip. It was a coordinated attack by the neocons, the fake in-name Republican rhinos who perpetrated an attack on Nick Fuentes because they can't have him expose their number one lobby, and that is the Israel lobby. I mean, everything it seems like we passed or sent. We've sent billions to Israel this year when we have homeless veterans on the street and homeless Americans. It is infuriating. And now we're actually going to be helping and supporting Ukraine, it looks like, and sending them stuff recently reported last week. Trump was literally on record saying it. And it's just, I feel like they've done a full 360 this administration. I still do think they're the best of the two picks. I mean, Kamala was a moron, but I mean, no big name arrests, as I've said. They think we're stupid in regards to when it comes to Epstein. It seems like They might pull us into a war with an Iran to benefit Israel. And yeah, dangerous, crazy biblical times we're living in. But it was definitely a coordinated attack, because if you saw on X, Twitter, if you have it, literally all day you saw people who seemed to lean with Candace Owens and Tucker, who were talking crap about Fuentes, calling him a fed, calling him all these names. And then he comes out with this 3-hour docu-series piece and just demolishes the whole ordeal and the talking points of him being a Fed, and actually showing the people that were accusing him of being a Fed are indeed Feds themselves. So he is a master at doing that and reversing the roles and putting the people that are lying about him in check.
Percent steered by women. So, I mean, your thing on patriarchy, in my opinion, is indispensable. It's literally indispensable. And it's like, it's actually a good thing that we're in the Tate generation of young kids that are saying, you know, what color is your Bugatti and all. I think it's actually a really good thing. But with that being said, as far as these connections are concerned, I think transparency is the solution. Yeah. You know, you coming on this and saying, hey, I just retweeted him just because. Okay, valid, legitimate. I hear you. But in a lot of these cases, typically where there's smoke, there's fire. And I like to draw these connections because this is how politics operates. You do get these networks that come together. They're networks of patronage. They're networks of money. I'm not going to lie to you. A lot of people came to me privately and said, I'm on your side. I agree with you, but I can't speak out against Tucker because he's done things for me, because he's a friend of mine. And I've heard that from a lot of people. I'm not going to name names. Some of them said it publicly. Glenn Greenwald, Ian Carroll. They said a lot of nice things about me. Dave Smith, too. But
I love Ian Carroll. And I mean, I do like a lot of what Dave Smith is saying.
They also said, you know, I don't even really want to weigh in because I like Tucker. Now, you know, in our political battle, we actually have to be willing to criticize people. We have to be willing to scrutinize those kinds of things. And someone like Tucker, you know, he's got some explaining to do. He said he didn't know his dad was in the CIA. He lied. He did know that. Now, if we're coming for the Matrix, and insofar as the Matrix is the deep state, we're going to need an answer on that. I would like an answer on that, as well as some of these other things. And so that's where it's like, I agree with you. There is 100%. There can be a schizo tendency. And unfortunately, when you introduce concepts like Palantir, a limited hangout, when you introduce that to low IQ people, they'll start seeing it everywhere. You know, and unfortunately, it is true. I've seen it. People like trip on their shoelace and say,
it is insane that this guy hasn't blown up more than he is right now. I had no clue about Palantir or Peter Thiel until I came across Nick Fuentes, and he's totally opened my eyes. I feel like we got played, and it is connected with the CIA and Tucker Carlson, because he actually exposed Nick Fuentes. That Tucker was almost a right-hand man in regards to telling Trump, you need to nominate J.D. Vance as your VP pick. And I didn't even know who he was until he was picked. And I was like, all right, this guy can talk. He's good at debating. But now it makes sense. He was groomed as they've exposed. Because before the election even took place, I believe a lot of people, especially the MAGA base, were saying somewhere in regards to Vivek Ramaswamy or Byron Donalds, Matt Gaetz. We had a few really good people who we would have probably preferred over J.D. Vance, now knowing about his past. Let me know what you guys think, who you wanted.
This was a Palantir limited hangout. You know, it does happen. But in many cases, we actually do need transparency on some of these connections, because it's not lost on me that, you know, like Tucker Carlson, one of his critiques of me, he said that I am delegitimizing someone like J.D. Vance. And I said, well, wait a second. You know, Tucker had J.D. Vance on his show 46 times. Tucker made a personal appeal to Trump to choose Vance as his nominee. Now, Candace does not seem to be gung-ho about Vance. So there might be some, like I said, I think Candace is different than Tucker, and they're both different than you. But when Tucker came at me with that, I said, wait a second. He's calling me CIA. His dad is CIA. His friend Joe Kent is CIA. His buddy J.D. Vance works for Peter Thiel, who's a CIA contractor. That's a lot of CIA. That's a ton of CIA going on. And he lied about what he knew about the CIA. That's where I say, okay, sometimes where there's smoke, there's fire. So, you know, I 100% agree. There can be a tendency to get a little schizo, or maybe there's like a low IQ version of what we talk about. But I don't think I'm wrong about a lot of these connections. And, when you reposted Milo, and, maybe you'll admit it could have come across as a bad look. And that's why it's helpful when you said, that's how I know you're legit. A lot of people behind the scenes tell me, you got to press Tate. Tate's the enemy. Remind him his dad was in the CIA. What I respect about you is you talk to me. I have your number. I talk to you. I've been on streams with you. You're transparent. You said your dad is in the CIA. We didn't have to dig that out of anywhere. And to me, that's the difference. Is there that transparency? If you're transparent, we can ask the question, it gets answered, and we could say, okay, that's good enough. But if people hide or lie or they're not forthcoming, that's where there's a little scrutiny. So that's where I'm at on that. I do think it's important to look at some of those things.
No, it makes perfect sense. And just once again, from the very outside perspective, and I have to make it clear that I'm not as versed on all of these topics as a lot of the people who are watching this, but I've barely been online. I pop up online. I see there's this feud going on. The first thing I felt was a degree of...
A lot of people were saying that Andrew Tate did not look too bright going up against Nick Fuentes in this. So let's see what he has to say, because right now he's already starting off by saying he doesn't know as much, but he tends to usually act like he knows everything about everything. And I mean, I like some stuff Tate says.
Madness, to be honest.
I like them.
I mean, that's what I felt. And it was the same with Elon and Trump. I disagreed with Elon about H1B1. I think everybody did with a brain. Nobody wants that shit. It's a joke.
Yeah.
But I think by and large, he's done fantastic things. I think that Twitter, if he never bought it, by now would be so fully locked down. I think he did help with the culture. I think he made some massive positive pushes in the correct direction. And maybe a lot of this is going to be personality driven. Perhaps this is just me from a personality perspective. But if somebody does something good, I try very hard to not forget what they've done. The internet is a very fast moving place. There's a lot of ungratefulness on the internet, because you can do something amazing on a Monday and everyone hates you on a Tuesday, because it's fun to hate people and it's interesting, and trolling is fun. And that's kind of how it works. But when Trump and Elon started arguing and there was the big division, I felt a degree of sadness. When I saw that Tucker, Candace, and you didn't get along, I really, perhaps I'm a sentimental old man, I felt like we'd all be better if we were to a degree on the same team. And we're never all going to agree on everything. I like what you said about the transparency point. That's fantastic. Me, from a personality perspective, if there's orcs at my gate, I'm prepared to work with somebody who I disagree with on 99% of the problems besides let's kill the orcs. So I noticed as well, a lot of the Groypers are constantly retweeting and constantly hammering Tristan for supporting JD Vance. Well, JD Vance is the only American politician who talks about the fact that we don't have any freedom of speech in Europe. JD Vance was the only politician who talked about the fact that Romania...
all right. And like I said, I liked JD Vance until I knew this, but you don't think that they are, he's already exposed Nick Fuentes, grooming him. You don't think that they've trained him to be a professional talker, to be able to sound like you are America first? I mean, that is very easy, especially if you're intelligent, like we know JD Vance is. You can have them look any way you want. It's called actors, actresses. That's what they do. But, yeah.
We're in the country that locked us up, overthrew their own election. He's the only one who called it out. So perhaps at a deeper level, you know things I do not know, or there's some things about him I would not like, perhaps. But initially, the initial battle in Europe, we can't even talk. He's the only one sticking up for us. And it's kind of like this infinitely divisible problem, which is a problem we're going to have with the entire movement, especially if we're
sorry, guys.
Successful.
Sorry.
The more successful we are, the more fragmented it's going to become. As I said, if we had a white-only nation, the Italians would fight the Spanish, would fight the Germans, and before you know it, the North and the South would hate each other, and you'd be a Texan, and you'd be from Chicago, and everyone would hate each other again, even though we're all the same skin color. That's how it was before. That's why Europe was at constant war. So this infinite divisible problem is a real one, and we kind of have to find a way, especially, and this is me speaking out of turn because it's your movement, it's not my movement. But for you, I would say you have to kind of try to find a way to give some hard parameters and allow people who are not as intelligent as you, not as smart as you, not as well-versed as you, and most of your fans are not going to be. That's why you're the star, to sit and say, okay, where does someone fall? Are they on the good side or the bad side? Because perhaps they did this and this and this, but by and large, they've done X, Y, Z. I always thought, in my infinite ignorance, that Ian Carroll was a good guy. He exposed things, and I watched his videos, and I thought, that's interesting, that's interesting, that's interesting. And then I saw his feed, and everyone was calling him a Jewish plant. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Ian Carroll is one of my favorites.
Maybe I just don't know enough. Maybe I'm ignorant and dumb. But I was like, how the fuck is he a Jew? He's literally said the opposite the whole way through. So I do think this is some kind of issue which is going to be nearly impossible to solve because the internet's the internet, and this is how it works. And also, I will state this, even my movement, there are people in my movement who are retards, and they'll go to the gym and they'll hit their chest and they'll tell every woman to fuck off. And, you know, they'll walk around with a gun saying they're a G, and they're fucking retards, and they're part of my movement. And that's going to be part of every single movement. That's part of it. I just think we need to try our very best if we want to make a serious political and genuine change. You're right. We have to draw connections. We have to notice patterns. That's what you've done fantastically. That's what you've built your brand on. And perhaps my transparency allows me to sit down and explain that my father was discharged dishonorably for not following orders, and that we never even got a military pension and grew up destitute. You can all look that up online. Perhaps my transparency helps me, yes. But sometimes I see so much stuff being thrown around. I always like to think of things from the enemy's perspective. If I was them and I saw you fighting with Candace, fighting with Tucker, and then I retweet someone and then you say I'm part of them, and they're sitting there knowing none of us are part of them, they're laughing their fucking ass off. And I just think we have to be very conscious of that. That's the only point I'm making.
I mean, that in part is true, but I think they want us to have infighting.
Well, and I think...
Oh, yeah, so interesting take. All right, let him attack him. All right, so this is where they talk about Candace and Tucker attacking him. This one's going to be good.
Different than Tucker, and I think that Tucker is different from Candace. And the reason I knew that is because when Candace went on with Tucker, Tucker said, oh, you know, this kid, he's saying my dad is in the CIA. And Candace said, yeah, and he said that I'm Russian intelligence. And Tucker said, yeah, but that's more likely than my dad being in the CIA or me being in the CIA. So in that moment, I was like, okay, so wait a second. These two are not on the same page. And I don't think you're on the same page with them even necessarily on this whole thing. And I guess what I would say about their attack is, in particular, Tucker's attack was to discredit me. And, you know, I don't want to drag you to a conversation that you don't know all the information about, because I don't think that's fair. But suffice to say,
so far, Myron hasn't even been talking. I think he kind of just let them go back and forth this whole speech. It's not the full live. I took the best clips from the live, but in these, he doesn't really talk.
The particular thrust of his attack was to say that I'm a federal operative, was to say that I'm a federal agent. And you say that the question is, how do I handle that? Do I punch back really hard? Do I sort of take my lumps, so to speak? I would say that's a very pernicious and specific charge to make, which is supposed to say, and it was almost artful the way that he did it. He said, Nick says a lot of the right things, but you shouldn't listen to him because he's not who he says he is. And that sort of says to me that they are trying to block me from having influence. They're trying to destroy my reputation so that people don't listen. And in my show against Tucker, I sort of contrasted our two positions. If it's about the movement, for me, my movement says we're about American sovereignty. We want to break free from Israel. We want to break free from Jewish oligarchs. It's identitarian. America has a white character. It has a European character. It's racial. That has a lot to do with it. We need to shut down immigration. We need to get rid of this oligarchic syndicate that's running our country. And I would question, does Tucker conform to that? Because repeatedly he insists, I have never talked about racial replacement migration. He insists, I'm not an enemy of Israel. I love Israel. I love going to Israel. Now, you know, what movement is he a part of? He's part of the movement where you work for Fox News for 20 years. And then when the whole world gets red-pilled, now you're going to talk about Israel a little bit. Is the movement where your dad's...
Yeah, let's not pretend he wasn't a neocon before and his father didn't run all those deals that were going on behind the scenes in the CIA, probably when they first started, when they were the most corrupt, where they go into other countries, put in a shadow government and control that government through our CIA. just like Israel.
In the CIA? Is the movement where you call up Trump and tell him to do a COVID lockdown? Is the movement where you say you hate Trump and you're ready to see him go away because you can't stand him? I don't know who Tucker is. I know who I am. And I would say that when push comes to shove, I have a much better case to make that I'm a credible voice than he does. I would make the case that my movement, to the extent that it's different, is much more consistent with what's right and where the people are at. If he wants to make it me versus him, be my guest. I don't think he's going to like where that goes on a long enough timeline. So that's why I said to Alex Jones yesterday, I said, I would love to privately or publicly talk to Tucker. If he thinks I'm a Fed, if he cares about the movement, then, look, I'm not going away anytime soon. He needs to listen and take me seriously, obviously, because his attack on me backfired. I think he needs to put up or shut up. Have me on the show and debate the differences, make the case I'm a Fed, or get with the fucking program. But that's kind of where I'm at with him. So I'm with you. I do have a consciousness of the movement, and I think that maybe Tucker plays a role in this movement, and maybe Candace plays a role, but I think they need to have a team player mentality. I can't be expected to have all the magnanimity in the world and all the patience and tolerate the kind of nonsense they're throwing my way. That's kind of my position, because I like you a lot, and I think, when you and I had our disagreement on Twitter, you said, fuck it, let's get on a stream. I love that. I think that's honest. I think, like you said, we don't agree on everything. And I've taken issue with things you've said and vice versa. But we can kind of talk about where we align. And first of all, we can talk. I think we should expect the same thing from them as well. And in particular, Tucker. So that's sort of where I'm at, because I sort of see what you're saying, but I got to stick up for myself a little bit in this case.
Totally get it. And that's my point about the tweet I made. And I totally understand how the timing was suspect. But even recently, even today, one more thing I want to say when it comes to your movement as a whole.
Candace Owens exposed herself, that Nick Fuentes interview with her. She was just coming off as a triggered Karen, as you call it. I think Nick handled that interview so well. Also, it was very disappointing because I got a copyright strike on it. One, which changed the whole aspect of my channel, and two, because they didn't talk about anything of relevance, like the wars, Trump, Epstein, none of that. It was just, you said this about me in the past, so I'm going to put you on blast. Oh, you're not married or having kids right now? You're a terrible person.
Once again, ridiculous. I need to stay in my lane because it's not my movement. It's yours, and you've built it. And most importantly, you've suffered for it. It wasn't handed to you. You suffered to build what you've built, which is why it's so strong and so powerful. Same as my movement, which, I would say it's moved over now. I did my job, and I would argue that we moved into a new era where we have new concerns. When I was saying the things I was saying at the time, it was groundbreaking, and now everybody says them. And there's always going to be a part of you, which is a bit like, okay, so when it was dangerous to say these things, I did it. And now it's not dangerous. Everyone says it. And it pisses you off a little bit. So I also understand perhaps when you just mentioned, you said there that Tucker's now saying it when everyone else is saying it. There's going to be a bit of personal, like, hey, I got debanked. I couldn't fly. I suffered for this. Like, I went to jail for what I said, and now everyone tweets it all day long and calls me a Fed. Part of you is going to be like, well, that's ungrateful of the masses, isn't it? Because I was the one who was suffering to even say this stuff in the first place, which is a real important point. So I
don't see how anyone can defend Candace at this point. Candace is fully, I think, just ruined her career. Like, she's made it very difficult to really trust or see her as a serious person anymore. That's just how I think of it, at least. Now we're going to react to two more clips. Let's see this one. Ooh, I like this.
Conservative influencers are. It's an indefensible position by this point to still be defending Israel. And a lot of the mainstream conservative influencers are still trying to do it. In fact, it's tanked conservatism as a whole. I would argue that this whole Israel-Palestine debate has destroyed the whole idea of conservatism as a whole, because I have nothing against Charlie Kirk, for example. I don't know him. I've never spoken to him in my life. I've seen him on the campuses destroying people about the basic things, about, transgenders or whatever. I have nothing against him. But the second he defends Israel, it's indefensible. It's indefensible. There's no way to defend blowing children to fucking pieces. You can't do that. And the fact that they still try to do it, even though it's a completely indefensible position, shows how afraid they are of the blackballing and of the backlash.
Yep, and they're slowly coming around as we see, because someone called in to Charlie Kirk the other day, which went mega viral, and he deleted the show because it showed someone, a fan of Nick Fuentes, calling him out and being like, hey, when are you going to talk to Nick Fuentes? And I think he called him like a troll or whatever, but yeah, Charlie Kirk also came across as really fake, just to my opinion.
As far as the whole Democrat thing is concerned, it's very amusing to me. It's very amusing. I almost don't even mind it because, you know, people are fucking retarded about politics. Like on some level, you'd like to think that we're starting to get it. The people are waking up. They see what Israel's doing. And then at the same time, you have to keep the Pareto principle in mind, the 80-20 principle, which is that like 80% of the population is scum. They're just like worthless scum. Now, they're not worthless, but they're low IQ followers, whatever you want to call it. It's a 20-80 principle or an 80-20 principle. And here's what I mean by this.
I wanted to talk about that group because I saw that group today. I was driving home and I saw people holding up ICE equals Gestapo. ICE is the KKK. Oh my gosh, just leave America, please. I cannot stand. And of course, they were wearing masks with a rainbow hair color. Old white liberal women who have no jobs. But I would say those are those exact people to a damn T.
As far as I'm concerned, we are so through the rabbit hole. Like I got red pilled when I turned 18 and I was in college 10 years ago, whatever it was. And we're at the point now where you have these basic normies. They're just discovering Israel. At the same time, I go and criticize Trump for something or another thing, and people say, yeah, but I mean, the Democrat would have been worse, don't you think? But the Democrats would have been far worse. This is better than Kamala.
Real quick, because I heard that and I want to speak on it before he goes into it. I actually disagree with him on that, completely disagree, because even though I think this administration is in bed with Israel, it's so obvious. Yeah. Open border continuing to happen, we would have had 50 million plus illegals coming into the country under Kamala. She was so incompetent and obviously just a puppet for the puppet masters. I'm still not satisfied with this administration. They are doing good things, but when it comes to taking down the deep state, they are running out of time. When it comes to keeping my trust in them, it's pretty much gone at this point. I do think there's some good things that have happened, but I'm just very disappointed that Epstein's situation are the same people running our government that are involved with the Epstein files. That's why I take it as a big deal. Literally people in charge of policy decisions that run our everyday life haven't been arrested who were raping kids. That's why I think it's a big deal, and that's why I'm not going to stop talking about it. But I do think that it's a lot better than Kamala would have been. That's what I believe.
Wouldn't you say? And to me, this is just such like a basic mechanism of control, which is how the regime will play the right off of the left. I almost feel like it's passé. It's trite to even suggest that the right and left are the same. And yet it needs to be said over and over and over again. The Republicans are just as bad as the Democrats. They always have been. Who brought us to Iraq? The Republicans. Who made the economy the way it is? Republicans. Where did NAFTA come from? Yeah, Bill Clinton signed it, but it came from the Republicans. It's like, so, people like to say, but the Dems, but the left, but this, that, and the other. The Republicans are the same. They are virtually the same. The platform is effectively indistinguishable. They have the same donors. They go to the same parties. They're the same people. And so
I've heard these Republicans that actually admit on camera on interviews that, yeah, we all get along behind the scenes. It's just a big show. And then we go and have drinks and eat food. It's like, you can't trust anything either side tells you.
Like Dinesh D'Souza and I debated back in June, and Dinesh said this to me. He said, you're starting to sound like a Democrat. I'm like, Democrats, Republicans, are we really still doing this thing? As far as I'm concerned, it's like there are the people that are disempowered, And then there are the people that are in power. Now, whether you or I are voting Republican or Democrat, whether we watch Fox News or MSNBC, we're still goyim. We're still stupid wage slaves. We're still a bunch of stupid, disenchanted, or I should say disenfranchised wage slaves that are eating Zog slop, watching slop on TV. And here we are arguing it should be Biden, it should be Trump. There's continuity. Trump armed the Ukrainians first. Biden continued it. Trump gave us the vaccine. Biden mandated it. Trump started the Chinese tariffs. Biden did the CHIPS Act and continued the tariffs. Trump created the corporate tax rate. Biden kept it in place. Trump extended it when he got back in. It's all.
By the way, Trump said that he was going to give us a Doge check. One, never happened. Two, he talked about getting rid of the IRS. Not going to happen. I mean, why should we, if there's money coming into America, why the hell should we, the people who hasn't spent any of this debt, that was the politicians' fault, why should we put that on the debt and not the corrupt politicians that gave us that debt? That's what I don't get about these clowns I see on X saying, no, don't give us any money. Let's give it to the debt. I'm like, you mean the debt that none of us contributed to? No. If you're going to bring in that cash, give it to American taxpayers, not illegals, American taxpayers, because that is BS. Pay off the debt, my ass. You can give them. How about you just donate your own money to them? It's ridiculous that clowns would even think that.
All the same shit. It's always been all the same shit. So, and like I said, I feel like George Carlin saying that. I feel like an edgy midwit when I say, "Oh, it's all one big club and you ain't in it." Yeah, I feel like a big fucking stupid midwit when I say that. And yet it still needs to be said because you have these dummies that are like, we have to vote Republican every time forever or else the Democrats, they're going to what? They're going to make a vaccine. They're going to let in illegal aliens. Trump did the same thing. So, you know, the promise of Trump is that he was going to break us out of that. He didn't. And now we need to recognize he's just another Republican candidate and act accordingly. That was always my message.
So I don't agree. As I have constantly defended Trump on this, he has brought the border crossings barely to zero. So if you're going to at least give him credit on something, I would say it's that one. The border has been secure thanks to him.
Like, that's all white people. That's white people. That's white boys. A lot of them are the same ones talking about getting married. And I can even talk about my webcam company I had, which I've been very honest and open about. All those were white men. They were all married. They all were, I love my wife, and then going to the toilet with a laptop, jerking off when their wife went to sleep. These people aren't even loyal. That's the worst thing about it. They pretend to be loyal, but perhaps they can't do any better, or they're scared of getting divorce rate. They're not even actually genuinely loyal. So white people are in a really precarious scenario because they're the only ones who listen to women at all. And they're on the verge of basically simping themselves into extinction. The OnlyFans girl who just extorted Shannon Sharp and sued him for sexual assault and took all his money, took $10 million and quit her OnlyFans. All her stories now on Instagram are the Bible and Catholic Church because she just got a fucking payout. And now she's walking around there. And I guess what? It's going to be some little white boy Catholic who meets her, holds her hand and says, I can't believe that big black man did those evil things to you. You definitely didn't want him to fuck you like that, you poor thing. Let me marry you. Love you, darling. And maybe get one kid out of it before he gets divorce raped and end up fucking sending money to some other OnlyFans girls. This is a big white problem. This simping shit is a white issue. It's a big one. And it's difficult. It is difficult. And I understand what Nick's saying about, you know, he's a Catholic and he has certain rules and certain things he wants to live by. I get it. The life system I came up with was basically me just looking at the chessboard and going, okay, there's the game they want me to play. What's the best move on the board? How do I get children? How do I not end up being nagged? How do I not get divorce raped? How do I keep my sovereignty? And I made that decision to do those things so I can have 25 children because I believe that's the most important thing to do. But doing that has alienated a huge swath of people who then say I'm a bad person because I'm not married and I don't have one wife and I'm not Catholic and that I am a terrible Jew for some reason, not understanding that their mindset is the reason they are being replaced in their countries and they are simping themselves to extinction. They write to me that I'm a bad person with one hand and click Pornhub.com with the other fucking hand and jerk off to girls who are actually human trafficked. So the whole thing is so hypocritical and stupid. But by and large, yeah, there was a pretty simple societal contract which has now been broken. I'll take care of you, I'll protect and provide for you, and you'll do as I say. And that's now been broken, and women don't want to listen. And men are still expected, from the tradcons at least, to do all the work with none of the rewards. And I think, as Nick quite correctly pointed out, it's very dangerous to tell young men to go and sign up for that deal, especially when the full force of the law will come down anytime she wants and destroy the guy. So before, we're right. We have a lot of things to do when it comes to noticing, a lot of things to do when it comes to getting hold of the reins of power. That's all true. But we also have a lot of things to do when it comes down to the simple fact that we need people to have families that they're proud of, that they can reproduce within without being completely fucking decimated emotionally, financially, and most importantly, spiritually. No man is going to go to war for his country if he doesn't feel like the king of his own house. If he comes home and his wife doesn't listen to him and he's getting fucking henpecked, he ain't going to go and defend that street or defend that town. You're breaking the man's spirit. You're breaking.
That is true. And, men these days, let's say people are breaking a house, people will get arrested for defending their house these days. If you break in certain states, including mine, there's people getting arrested for attacking or defending themselves when it comes to burglars. It's crazy. Also, yeah, men are degraded on a daily level. We were told that we don't do anything, we don't contribute anything, and that women are, I feel like in Hollywood, they push this like agenda, like women are better than men. It's weird. We all have our strengths. We all have our weaknesses. That's why we're good together. And that's just how I think. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. Have a blessed night. Peace. Thanks.